dark like I usually did, and to have a look at my phone next to my bed to see what the time was, but it was actually light. It was 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't believe it.
Okay, so we've got to set the timer. You only have 30 minutes every night.
But Fleur Francis is still looking for her sleep solution.
It shouldn't be that hard. And someone must know, someone must have the answer.
Dr. Alex Bartle believes changing behaviour is key. Get up, don't lie in bed if you're awake, keep the bright lights off and stay away from technology.
Journaling is fantastically useful. That's writing stuff that's going on for you emotionally, maybe, that you can then throw away. So pen and paper is good. I can't sleep and this is hopeless. I've got a busy day tomorrow, whatever. Some light reading, like a magazine or newspaper or something like that, but not computer. Not checking your emails, not TV. Not your latest novel that you're going to get stuck into for the next couple of hours. Not talkback radio, preferably, whether you get all wound up about. But just some light reading, like a magazine or newspaper article that is just brief, because you only need to be up for 15 minutes.
For the LaRue family, life is just as it should be. Tracy is sleeping and in remission.
Never, ever, ever lose hope. If that's one big message I can give anybody out there that's suffering with sleep. I know what it feels like, and I've been down that path where you just feel there is no hope and you feel like you can't live anymore, but there definitely is hope.
Since that story was filmed, Fleur has started using sleep drops, and so far they appear to be helping. However, insomnia is a complicated issue, and if you are having trouble sleeping, contact a healthcare professional. Still to come, we hear from the wife of Kiwi engineer Paul Weeks, missing on board Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, and the goodbye she'll never forget.
As he was walking, he turned around, Lincoln screamed out, "I love you," and he blew us a kiss and walked out the door, and that was it. That was the last.
A month ago, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 disappeared from radar. Something or someone caused 2 different location devices to be switched off. We now know that flight MH370 flew for another 7 hours in the opposite direction from its scheduled destination and likely crashed into the southern Indian Ocean, 2,500 kilometres from Perth. Nothing about the flight makes sense, and nothing will bring comfort to those whose loved ones were on board. Among them, Paul Weeks, the Kiwi mining engineer heading to Mongolia for his dream job. Tonight, Charles Woolley speaks exclusively to Paul's wife, Danica, and other victims' families as they tell of the agony of not knowing.
At first appearances, this is as normal a family setting as you'll get. Except that one member of the Weeks family is missing. Paul, father to 3-year-old Lincoln and 11-month-old Jack, husband to Danica.
We did everything together as a family. And when you look in your children's eyes, and I feel the pain, because I know the man Paul was, and I know the enormity of what they're going to miss out on for the rest of their lives. That is so overwhelming for me that when I look at Lincoln, I have to tell him his dad is gone.
Do you think you can tell them before you have the answer?
I think I have to, because you've got to tell the kids the truth. But Lincoln, even this morning, he was having a meltdown and he's, "I'm missing Daddy, I'm missing Daddy. And when's Daddy coming home? Is Daddy still missing?" Yeah, did you show us our car?
While Danica wrestles with the pain for her young family in Perth, across the country in Brisbane, Amanda Lawton is dealing with the loss of her parents, Robert and Kathy.
I feel so grateful that I've had 27 years with my mum and dad. Good years. Mum was my best friend.
These are two families at different stages in life from opposite sides of the country. As strangers across the world are united in sorrow and in anger over the fate of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370.
We may never know what happened to this airplane.
To the world, it is the greatest of aviation mysteries.
The great unsolved crime of the 20th century was who shot JFK. This is going to be the great unsolved crime of the 21st century.
To the families of 6 Australians on board MH370, it is unbearable.
But to know that they'd actually flown straight past us.
So close to home.
So close. And I would have been out in the shops at the time. I've thought this through. I was in Perth, merrily going along our family way whilst he was crashing into the ocean.
We got a routine takeoff not long after midnight.
David Learmount is one of the world's most respected aviation safety experts.
This flight takes off at that time every single day. Everything about this flight is routine. It's just another flight.
Flight 370 is level at 35,000 feet, cruising out of Malaysian airspace, heading towards Vietnam. On board are 12 crew and 227 passengers. One is Paul Weeks, flying out to Mongolia to take up his new job as a mining engineer.
This is a dream job. I'd never stop him from doing, his dream job and following his dreams.
This young family had already been through a lot.
Oh my God!
They'd survived the Christchurch earthquake of 2011, settling in the relative safety of Perth, only to be involved in a near-fatal car crash just after Christmas. But now, Paul and Danica were securing the family's future.
He kissed me goodbye and hugged me, and of course he'd hugged the boys. And Lincoln, as he was walking, he turned around, Lincoln screamed out, "I love you." And he blew us a kiss and walked out the door, and that was it. That was the last I could see it. That picture is forever in my brain, and I left there and of course just cried the whole way I put my sunglasses on. So I wasn't so tough in front of Lincoln the whole way. I sort of turned up the music and cried all the way to soccer.
Aboard Flight 370, everything is normal as it flies northeast towards Vietnam. Now, it's a lovely night outside, and inside, I suppose most passengers are wanting to have a sleep.
I mean, at 1 o'clock in the morning, who wants to have a meal? And a lot of people will be saying, look, don't bother me again. I'm putting my eye shades on. I'm tightening my seatbelt, putting a blanket over my shoulders, and I'm going to sleep.
For Kathy and Bob Lawton, travelling with best friends Rod and Mary Burrows, this was a bittersweet trip. Kathy was losing her eyesight due to glaucoma, and they'd embarked on this 5-week holiday to Malaysia and China before her sight went completely.
My last words to both of them, I gave them a kiss each and just said, be safe, and look forward to seeing them.
Amanda Lawton is Kathy and Bob's daughter. Jeanette Maguire is Kathy's sister.
But she was very, very nervous actually about that flight. She kept asking everybody how safe was this Malaysian Airlines. She didn't know enough about them. We all just said they're great, worldwide state of the art.
Do you think she might have intuited something?
I think so. Pretty much from about November last year, she was going on and about how she's been having all these bad dreams, nightmares. And we're just like, Mum, you're being silly, you're just being a worrywart.
The aircraft, the 777-200, should any doubt now attach to that plane?
I haven't got any doubt about the engineering integrity of the 777. It's a beautiful aeroplane. It has a fantastic record in service. They just don't go wrong in a way which would cause the aeroplane to disappear. They just don't.
Up next on 60 Minutes, Danica Weeks relives the phone call which made her life a living hell.
She simply said, there's been an incident with the plane. And I just ran out. I didn't know what to do. I just ran out.
Flight 370 is just minutes away from disappearing. 19 minutes past 1, everything seems fine in the cockpit. There should now be a changeover from Malaysian airspace to Vietnamese. The co-pilot, 27-year-old Farid Hamid, makes what will be the final communication from the plane. He radios Malaysian control. All right, good night. But never makes a follow-up to Vietnamese control. So his last transmission could perhaps be interpreted as a final goodbye from a suicidal pilot.
Basically, the aircraft is approaching the airspace boundary between the two states, and there's a fairly simple handover at that point.
So the good night isn't some doom-laden suicidal message.
There's no way that good night was goodbye forever. You cannot read that into it.
It was going to be good night, Malaysia, good morning, Vietnam.
I mean, it's two human beings talking to each other. Why not say good night?
Then at 1:21 a.m, Flight 370 mysteriously vanishes.
All of a sudden, air traffic controllers in both Vietnam and in Malaysia suddenly can't see the airplane any longer. The controllers can suddenly see nothing.
On board Flight 370, something, or more probably someone, has switched off the aircraft's transponder, which relays its position and call sign to air traffic control.
It's quite a clever tactic. This is if it was deliberate. It's quite a clever tactic to switch off the transponder just as responsibility is being transferred from one air traffic control centre to another.
Then, minutes later, something, or again someone, disables the aircraft's only other active transmission system called ACARS, which uses satellites to relay messages from the plane back to base and vice versa.
There are only two things which could disable the ACARS, and one is that it could have been switched off deliberately by somebody on the aircraft, or otherwise something happened to deprive the aircraft of power, which would have switched other things off as well. So it was either deprived of power accidentally, we don't have any evidence for that, or it was deprived of power by literally being switched off deliberately.
This is where the confounding mystery of Flight 370 begins. The transponder in the ACARS system was switched off. There is no mayday call from the pilot. There was no further communication from the cockpit whatsoever. Whatever happens from this point on would seem to be catastrophic, but we may never know. Flight 370 is due to land. The arrival board reads, delayed. The truth is, Malaysian Flight 370 is missing.
We are working with authorities to locate the aircraft.
Malaysian Airlines know it, air traffic controllers know